Welcome to Show Me the Money Rugby League TV, back by popular demand. This is just a Mick and Craig special to get the views up, so sorry Joe and Jimmy, we're only messing, we love you really.
Inevitably it had to happen.
It did. So yeah, this is a special show, special segment on the Bradford Bulls, because when you talk about transition, Craig, you look at a number of rugby league clubs and you'd probably say Warrington are in that transitional stage in the Super League. When you look at the Championship, you can probably mention Batley with the amount of players that they've lost, and obviously Craig Lingard bringing new blood in. But a club that's seeing wholesale change in 2023 is the Bradford Bulls. They've lost 16 players, 16 new faces are going to come in, and it is going to be wholesale change. Probably when we talk about the switch from winter to summer rugby league, I don't think the Bradford Bulls are going to go through as much change as they are going to do in this off-season. And I think you're slowly but surely seeing Mark Dunning stamp his authority on the type of player, on the type of squad that he wants at the club, none more so than the big news last week that Jack Walker has left the Leeds Rhinos and signed for the Bradford Bulls.
Listen, you change format at Bradford because they had a poor season. That's fact. You don't change a lot when you're winning.
Correct.
You seem to change a lot when you're poor. They were poor last year. Whatever reasons. I said to you early I thought the recruiting were awful last year. I didn't think they got it right. I didn't think they got the blend right. There's a key word sometimes they use, experience. I actually had a discussion with Mark about it. And I said to him on Tuesday, Wednesday, Mark, I don't like using that word when you're recruiting. I met Trent Robinson last week. And it's something I wanted to use on the programme, probably the best time to use it. He said about youth at Sydney Roosters, they've got a massive vibe of young people who have made on to world stars. I'm sure you know him better than me, but the latest one being the Samoa fullback.
Yeah.
You know, but you're talking originally from Sonny Bill, the winger Daniel.
Yeah.
What's the winger called? The 6'6" winger who's now playing in the World Cup. Anyway, I think he mentioned 9 players who've come through their system. Even the England number 13,
Victor Radley.
And he said, I love to have youth around my squad. And this is the reasons why. He said, one, when you come into training, it gives you a vibe. So you get a lot of older people together, a lot of older players. It doesn't give you the same vibe. There's no energy, Mick. Secondly, he said, it's on the pitch and having that vibe around you. And third, he said, the game's going leg speed. So why would you not be younger? I think Mark's got to believe, he said to me that he does want to be younger. I hope he believes in it and not just saying it. I hope he genuinely believes that that's the way. Because the only way Bradford will get into Super League is on that vibe. The only way they'll get fans back, Mick, is on that vibe. Is to play fast, electric rugby, which is a brand of rugby which people want to see. They've got to try and get youngsters into that ground. The last 6 times I've been, Mick, the average age has got... And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. They have been so loyal to that thing, but they'll know themselves to get their grandkids to come. It's got to be exciting. Sat at Odstall in the middle of a cold winter day watching a load of old big legs win round it slow as out and kicking on 5th tackle into corners. Ain't selling no tickets, Michael. I hope that what you're saying is true. I said, I hope Mark does it. I hope they buy into it. And Bradford, you've said 16 changes. They needed 16 changes.
They did need 16 changes. First and foremost, like you say, Craig, that recruitment from the end of last season into this season, that was Nigel Wood, John Keir. Mark Dunning, he's now the head coach. He's assembling the team that he wants. And quite rightly, you are correct, Craig. The season gone for Bradford, finishing 9th. It was one of abject failure.
Yeah.
I can't sugarcoat that. You know, yes, I do have a lot of emotional attachment to the Bradford Bulls, but it was a car crash of the season. There was a lot of disgruntled players, rightly or wrongly. People at the top, Nigel Wood, Jason Hurst, no criticism, but they probably need to have a look at themselves and look at how they behave in that club environment, because there's something wrong to me when you have club stalwarts like Steve Crossley, you've got Matty Dawson-Jones, Elliot Keir, you've got a lot of players, Craig, who are saying the same sort of thing. They feel disenfranchised, they feel like, you know, they're not getting anything from the top and they're wanting out and they're joining other clubs for similar money, slightly less, slightly more. So, you know, I think
that's all right. That's all right. I'd say if I own a club, I'd say that's all right. Go.
Yeah.
Mark, here's one for you. When you're a young coach like Mark, you probably don't need too many experienced older heads. Maybe 2 or 3. Too many. When Mark's going in to put discipline into people, it's hard, Mick. It's any industry. When you go in, there's older people who've been there years that they can be very set in their ways, very judgmental in what you're doing. It's very hard for a young coach to impress. I thought when Gareth Southgate, everyone said, oh my God, why Southgate brought 20 players under 22 from his under 21s? Well, of course he did. Because he knew that they'd trust him. Yeah. He knew they'd listen to him. He went like that with older players straight away because he knew that he wouldn't get their respect. They'd be like, oh, no, Gareth Southgate, blah, blah, blah. No interest. He went, no problem. Off you go, and I'm going to bring these in. And they will listen to me because they've got an history of listening to me. I've helped a lot of their careers. So again, I'll go again. Bradford need to even tap into the academy. The 2 young players that Bradford have got to keep for me is Flanagan and
Miles Lawford.
Miles, I know they're on about playing the contracts out. Not for me. You know, Bradford should, you know, do what they can. If they think they're the future, mate, if they think these lads have got a future, make it happen. Make it happen and get some... If they can keep them 2, how many other players at Bradford, if they keep them 2, what do you think the other young ones will do? We've got a young propper we think loads of. If he sees them sign for 3-year deals, what do you think the others will do?
Well, as we've said on this show for the past 3 or 4 years, Craig, when we talk about academy and pathway junior development, you know, we focus heavily on clubs like Wigan, St Helens, Leeds and Bradford, who are probably the top 4. When we did the show about the academy licences, Bradford are, even now, as a League One Championship club, they are in that top 5 for bringing players through in the country. So if your Miles Lawford signs a long-term deal, if your George Flanagan Jr. signs a long-term deal, then, you know, your Harry Grays, your Lewis Camdens, those next players on the preference of going into that first team, they see that pathway. That cements that pathway. And
that's rugby.
Not just Harry Grays, Lewis Camdens, your Bailey Arnolds, you know, listen, Marcus Greens, who made his debut towards the end of last season. He's the next Oliver Wilson, in my opinion. Marcus, I know you watch the show. I mean that. I really do mean that. You know, the meters you make, you know, I don't know how they do it, Craig, because you speak to Mark Dunning, you speak to Lee Beater, Bradford and the academy are still in special measures. They're still in special measures. They've just been evaluated. They're going to get the full report or the evaluated report in the next couple of weeks, and then May's the D-Day for Castleford and Bradford, because that's the next hurdle. Do Bradford keep the academy? Do Castleford keep the academy? I'll say it right here, right now.
I don't think they will.
I'll say it right here, right now. Nigel Wood and Jason Hurst, they have to be honest with the fans. What the RFL are saying to me is the reason Bradford are still in special measures is because the academy hasn't had the adequate investment. That might come as a shock. I know there's a lot of Bradford fans who watch this, so please, you know, listen carefully to what I'm saying. I've asked the RFL directly, why is the Bradford Bulls Academy still in special measures? And they've said because it has not received a duty of care. It has not when I say duty of care, we're talking about the finances, we're talking about the paperwork, you know, we're talking about everything that goes with running Elite Academy. And sadly, you know, we know Bradford are not flush with cash, and obviously finances are quite scarce, to put it bluntly, and that money has to be diverted X, Y and Z. But for Bradford to keep the academy, there has to be that duty of care, there has to be that investment. Because what you're seeing, Craig, from Lee Beattie and Mark Dunning is, and I know Ryan Hunkins just come back this past week, he's going to take over as head of youth, is you've got Mark Dunning, you've got Lee Beattie, you've got a lot of volunteers like Tony Hoggart, you know, to name one, who literally are, you know, the sellotape, the blue tack, the plasters, keeping it all together. Mark Dunning, if I could explain to fans what Mark's doing, you know, he's involved in the under-16s, the 18s, the reserves. He's then doing the first team. He's been doing 70 plus hours a week. Lee Beattie, a similar amount of time. You know, they are literally holding everything together. And when you look at the next crop of youngsters, and we saw a little glimmer last season with your Flanagan Juniors, your Miles Lawfords, Lewis Camden, your Harry Grays, Bailey Arnolds, the next set of junior players that are going to come through, it will be absolutely heartbreaking. It'd be a travesty. I would seriously struggle to have any involvement with that club if that academy goes. Well, I will be honest, Craig.
It can't go. So what we're saying, it will go. I mean, from the Rugby League, I think Castle and Bradford probably on that plateau of, oh my God, do I want to invest 150 grand in an academy? I think if they, off the record, if they could speak about it, they might say, I don't think they have the passion for it at the top end as they do the bottom end. So I think the names you've mentioned have got a passion for youth. I think at the top end, at them clubs, they probably haven't got a passion for it. That's me being honest. You always know the ones who've got a passion for youth because they're involved in it, they go and watch it, they're interested in it. I mean, I was thinking the other day, again, when you watch John Bateman again at weekend, you're watching Elliot Whitehead, 2 back rowers playing for England.
Burgess.
Burgess. Then you look at Luke Cooley's made his Leeds debut in that friendly against New Zealand. The list is endless. The list is endless of what has happened at Bradford. There won't be a club at Bradford if they don't have academy.
They won't.
They won't.
They won't. And that is
because you're not that good at recruiting. You're not that good at recruiting. You're not a club like whether you say Batley are good at recruiting because they can work off a shoestring and they do it and they do it and they do it. I don't think nobody can keep reinventing. Salford look like they've done it. If that carries on, that's going to have more pressure on the academies because Salford can keep saying, we can do this every year. We can keep on signing players and remixing 9 to 10 players a year and making sure we're in top 6. It's this year's the biggest pressure on academies in the country. So if Salford finish in top 4 or 5 again without having an academy, I'm telling you now, when we can quote this in a year, 2 or 3 will drop out of academy without doubt. They'll just say, we'll save money and put it in.
Yeah.
IMG have got to be so bullies in saying, if you do not have an academy, and that's going to be put to Salford, because eventually this is going to, if I'm at a meeting and I own a club and I'm going to stand up and I'm going to say, why are you letting them not have an academy? Now, Salford and Lee want an academy, we've been told.
Correct.
They're both Lee.
Yeah, Ian Blaze, Derek Beaumont, spoke to both. Yeah. They're desperate. I'll include Kling at York. York want an academy as well.
So then, so the RFL have got to say, yes, allow them an academy. Well, that's the way we're going. We're going to do it. Because again, if you keep getting through this without an academy, how many clubs, literally, apart from maybe 4, would sustain an academy and want to keep on servicing their first team? I think rest will just cop out.
Yeah, yeah.
But back to Bradford, Mick, exciting times. If you're a Bradford Bulls fan, I'll leave it at this, because the lads are here for the meeting. You come in, and I'm 65-year-old, I've watched Bradford 25 years, yeah? I'm a loyal fan. I've got my son and my grandson. This is what happens in Rugby League, by the way. That's what happens. Your dad brings your son brings his son, granddad, they have a day out together. I've seen it at Bradford more than anywhere. There's generations.
Yeah, yeah.
You're a young lad and you're 10, 11-year-old, you want to be excited about going to rugby in this modern day life of social media and YouTube. And what do I want to see? I want to see Mikey Lewis. I want to see Lewis Dodds. I want to see Jack Wellesby. I want to see absolute vibrancy, don't you? Do you want to see, and this is, at the end of the day, you're a business, it's a product. Do you want to get that? How many of them young people would come if there's 15, 34-year-olds running around pitch? Truthfully.
Well, there's no attachment, if that makes sense. What Bradford need to do, and Mark's trying to do it, is, we saw it at the end of 2019, when you had your Rowan Milnes, your Matty Staughtons, your Ethan Ryans, your Elliot Minchellas. You had that homegrown ethos. We've slowly seen it under Nigel, and I'm not sure if this is Nigel Wood, not having his finger on the pulse, but since Nigel has, come from behind the curtain and took control, you've seen...
Sounds like Wizard of Oz. Is like Wizard of Oz then, behind the curtain? And...
Well, Craig, it's almost like, because I do my team sheet and I always highlight the homegrown players. In 2019, there was 8, 9, sometimes 10, 11 homegrown players. Sadly, season just gone. It's gone down to 3, 4.
Here's one for you, Mick. Joe, last month, we did our figures on here. Bit of a plug for us. 25,000 YouTube, other things, I think it's 17,000, not rest of social media downloads, whatever. we can get that analysis, and Joe broke it down into what age group watches at what time, because that's what you get. Bradford should do it, and the answer will be there.
Yeah.
Bradford should say, when you come through gate, name, age, and as much information, take that back individually, not just on season tickets, take it back. Don't it take you one or two games to do it? And look at what their spectator age is. Look at the reason they've come. You need some good feedback. Club like Bradford, if it were me, I'd be doing that. I'd be getting all the feedback and as much analysis on why they're here and what they're looking for, and then I'd work off that when we squad. It's a business model, isn't it? And I think the main thing that'll come back is relate to the young people to get it. Are your 100% fans, how many are under 20?
If we're being honest, this is not just a Bradford thing.
Yeah, it's rugby league.
You're probably saying less than 30%.
I think it's less than that.
Well, it probably is less than that. But what I'm saying is, I'm going to say with conviction, it'll be less than 30%. But I would rather.
How many is 50 plus?
Over 50%, easy. But that goes for every rugby league club, and this is not just a Bradford problem.
I know, and I get it. I'm saying, I know it's not. I'm saying that's where we've got to be. We've got to get that information.
Yeah.
The RFL should say to you, that is the information. This is what we need, and how do we get that under 30, under 25 people to come into our game? We're watching at the World Cup. I went to a game on Saturday. It's my fourth game, Mick. I went to my game. I'll tell you now, they had a lot of kids at Newcastle. They did. Now, whether that's because they've invited, schools and things like that, but do you know one thing I noticed at weekend? I hope, and you know this, what again, back to Bradford and this new vibrant. I'm challenging Bradford Bulls to change the name. The biggest call ever on this show.
I'd have done it
it's the
after
biggest
the last
call
administration.
ever on this show. You never told me that before.
I have done. Listen.
Why do I get an idea then you say you thought
Craig,
that? You sound like our Joe.
No, I've said it before. Listen, whilst the Bradford Bulls is a very iconic brand and people know it worldwide, I still feel at this moment in time, because of that brand and what's happened in the last decade, it is still seen with administration, liquidation, and a sort of slide into the abyss.
Everybody, Bradford Bulls fans.
And that's hard to say. Hard to say as a proud Bradfordian.
This is the end of it, because we've got to go on to the show. So this is the end of it. Exciting times at Bradford. Change your name, in my opinion. Go with a new vibe, a lot of youth, and mix it in with them 2 or 3, 4 quality older players who've got a great attitude who will help them young kids come through. We've got a young coach, get a young vibe, change your name to a young name. We will take any comments, and the best comment on what to change the Bradford Bulls name to will be a special prize what we'll organise with Bradford for you. So we'll organise a special, maybe a meal at Bradford, first game of the season, paid for by Show Me, 100% for the best Bradford Bull new name anywhere around the world. I'm going to put you on the spot. What is your Bradford new name? Is it Bradford Socks? Is it...
We're trying to be serious.
I am being serious. In fact, sorry. Is it what? Bradford Capricorns?
You know what? I'm a real.
What's Lee's new one? Because all the state.
Well, we'll talk about that on the full 80. It's the Lee Leopards.
Or what about the Bradford Panthers?
I'd go back to good old Bradford Northern.
Yes, that's what I've said.
Just a final one for those that are pestering me about these Super League players that are coming. I do know there's four.
Well, I don't know. Rowan's called me out on that. Rowan texted me and said, "Excuse me, Mr. Harrison, where are these 4 players that you're commenting on?"
Whoa! Can I?
I'm going to text back and say, anyway, whatever.
Can I just say the 4 that are coming?
Well, you can't say it because the boss is not allowing you to say that.
I'm not saying they're coming from Leeds. I'm talking about other clubs. So yes, there's 4 players, and all 4 are not from Leeds. Listen,
but are we calling it to finish?
There's exciting times for next year. There's exciting times for Bradford next year. There's exciting times for
Bradford Northern Rugby League Club.
Craig, Bradford Bulls are not going to rebrand, sadly.
Why?
They're just not. Unless the new owner comes in.
What is Bradford most known for? In industry or anything?
Cloth, textile. Well, if we're going historical, the
textile industry.
No, the Bradford bar. The bar.
Sorry?
The bar.
There's a lot of boring people in Bradford.
You've not heard the story of the Bradford bar?
No.
With the tongue cut out.
Don't do it.
Well, we'll save it for another day. But listen, for those that have watched this, a bit of a short segment, but look, exciting times for Bradford, and I really do mean that. And I would rather, Craig, watch a team full of Lewis Camdens, Harry Grays, Bailey Arnolds, Miles Lawfords than what we saw last season. No disrespect to any of the players that have moved on, but I want to see passion out there on that field. I want to see passion on the shirt, fire in the bellies. And Mark Dunning, quite rightly as you say, Craig, he needs to be given a chance. That was not his team last year. Too many people putting the boot in. You know, I'll be honest, and I'll stick up for Mark. Mark at times last year was coaching with one arm tied behind his back, the other tied up here. How the hell can you do the job when you've got so much going on in the background? And I really feel sorry for Mark in what he inherited. He did inherit a car crash. Now, hopefully, with 16 out, 16 in, things will change and it'll be a lot more positive. And because we know Featherstone aren't going to be spending, we know Toulouse aren't going to be spending, Craig, that championship all of a sudden is wide open next year.
I said it last week.
It is wide open. I spoke to Cedric at Toulouse and they've asked the players to take a pay cut.
Listen, I said it last week.
There's a lot of challenges.
We're on the Jack Walker interview.
There's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of challenges for championship clubs. Next year, people are thinking it's a fallow year. We don't need to spend.
Well, they're thinking spend it in other areas so the year after they're ready.
But that gives Bradford, Halifax, York, I dare say Widnes, even Keighley, Batley obviously with how they're replenishing.
Halifax.
Yeah, have they said Halifax? Yeah. It's going to give them an almighty challenge. I'll stick my neck on the line now, and I'll say it's not as certain as we thought it was a month ago that it'll be a two-shoe race between Featherstone and Toulouse. I think there'll be a lot of surprises.
Let's do it. Thank you.
You just make sure them Leeds players come.